Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Terrapin Technology Group's Webinar Wednesday. My name is Joseph O'Donnell, and I am accompanied by Betty Nelson.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you with us.
So our discussion today is starting off a series of webinars dealing with working by remote and web conferencing. And our topic today is dealing with just making it easy to figure out what web conferencing service to use. This topic kind of came to the forefront of everyone's mind as soon as they were forced to work from home due to the pandemic that hit us. And while these tools have been around for quite a long time and people have used them on and off, it was nothing like what happened once the pandemic hit. And of course, that came to the forefront, but not just, what service to use and how to use them, but more importantly was just how to communicate with everybody, right, Betty?
Oh, totally. I couldn't agree more. I've heard from so many clients that had a workflow that was ideal for them, but now everything's changed. Some judges haven't been to the courthouse in months. Attorneys are getting their MCLE credits via web meetings. And I had to pull out my old Krups cappuccino maker because I wanted a latte the other day. So I personally was used to working from home in a quiet environment. And now my significant other, who is a teacher, is here with me every day, and he's also attending web meetings. Sometimes I feel like our house sounds like a call center, and I hope that's the closest I ever get to working in a call center. So let's look at some of the options that can make this a little easier on all of us.
That's perfect. And that's why we're talking about how to make these web conferencing services easy, is we've had a lot of experience with them. And things have changed. They're not the same as what we've had before. And the question that we get more times than not is, what do I use? So whether you're a construction company or a financial consultant or an attorney or whatever, the one thing that we all have in common is clients. And we need to communicate with our clients. That's a key ingredient of our work. So what do we use, or what should we use? And then the next question we usually get is, well, what's the easiest to use? And then, well, is it secure? What solutions should I keep in mind? So these are questions that we thought about. What services are out there? How can we help funnel all of these down? What questions can we help you answer so that you can find the answers to those exact questions and end up with a web conferencing service that works perfect for you?
Exactly. We've seen our clients literally rethinking how they're going to work not only now during the pandemic, but moving into the future. I already know a few firms that have chosen not to have a shared office space. They don't have servers, and they've trusted to put all of their documents in the cloud. That's working great for them, but now we need to adapt even further and find a way to meet, collaborate, and hopefully share with you today the options that will help you make those decisions.
That's right. A good informed decision. And trust me, we have evaluated a lot of these services. And whether that's because we use them directly or we've worked with them, or we have clients that have asked us to vet them or deploy them or et cetera. And I wish we could say, here's one, here's two, here's three. These options, these are the ones you use. They'll never change. Unfortunately, that's not going to work in our current scenario, nor really should it ever. Because things are always going to be changing. What worked really good 5 years ago may not work the best now. Things have changed.
Right.
Technology changes. Yeah.
Technology, it does change. And I told Joe as we were researching this topic during the last month, even the information that I found 30 days ago has changed today because these companies are super competitive and they're trying to figure out how to meet the needs of all the businesses that are displaced right now. So we're going to take a look at the top 7 that we've determined might be a good fit for your firm.
Right. And the solutions you see on this slide are web conferencing solutions we're seeing the most of. Now, the new players are kind of the ones on the right-hand side of the screen. You see things like Google Meet, Join Me, which have been around for a while for individual users to be able to meet and collaborate together, usually on a personal level. Then you have newer players like Blue Jeans, which we'll talk a bit about a bit later in our discussion. And then you have the ones on the left-hand side, which are becoming, if not already, are becoming commonplace, like Zoom, GoToMeeting, and WebEx. And then, of course, we have Microsoft Teams, which we'll talk about. They all have different things that make them valuable and worth consideration to see whether or not there's something that you're going to want to use or invest in. Now, don't get me wrong, even though this list is small, it took us quite a number of hours to review all these features, test them out, and it wouldn't be a great webinar and chart if we didn't show you exactly that. And we're going to be doing that.
We are, but let's talk about what your needs are first. First things first. I really recommend for our Terrapin clients to sit down and list what's most important to you and think outside the box. How are you really going to be using web conferencing? Is this kind of old school, like we've been using GoToMeeting and WebEx for a long time, where you're going to pull up a PowerPoint presentation and walk your audience through that? Or are you literally going to be talking to your clients via video? Discussing sensitive topics, using this in place of having a client come to your office for a closed door meeting. If you're going to be presenting to a large audience, is it going to be important to you to be able to let people into the meeting room, to make sure they're signed up for the event, or to moderate the chat experience? Those are the kinds of things I want you to write down as priorities, and then we'll take a look at the matrix briefly that I worked on.
That's right. Blood, sweat, and tears. And that really goes down to the meat and potatoes of what we kind of considered. Now, this is by no
Exactly.
means an exhaustive list.
No.
Primarily, we went through this, well, I should say, Betty sweated over this list and vetting all the different things to go through, because there is an overwhelming amount of information on that each of these services say, hey, we provide this and we provide that. What were the key things in going through this, Betty?
Well, first of all, I know security is important to everyone, but I left that off of this slide because you can literally secure any web conferencing memo by being experienced, by being smart and applying a password to your meeting. Another thing you can do is not reuse a URL for your meeting room that has been sent out in numerous emails. That's how people can pop into your meetings. So you can make your meeting secure. There are HIPAA levels of security on some of these solutions. Again, look at your list of what's most important to you. Then when you dig into these topics, you'll have more information available to you. But I think one of the most important things is the quality of the video, especially if you're using this to meet with numerous people and having numerous video feeds. We're talking HD quality. So I wanted to show that. A new term that we haven't heard a lot about in the past is conferencing as a service. That's my second item in the dark blue column. And conferencing as a service comes in handy when you're working with a large group that may not have a tech savvy side to them. Let's remember, most of our clients are not sitting in an office with IT professionals right down the hall ready to help or a phone call away. They're working from home, and conferencing as a service means you can send someone a link to a web conference and they can go directly into the meeting without having to download any software or an application or a client. There's lots of different terms for that. Moderated chat box is important to a lot of people in certain scenarios. I think many times we want to be able to record and archive our recordings on our platform that we've chosen.
Or
Custom
stream to YouTube like we're
branding,
doing
yeah,
today.
custom branding can be important. And the capacity piece changes literally every week right now. And there's something to be said about capacity. This number that I'm focused on is how many people can attend your webinar. That's a very different number than how many video feeds can be used at the same time concurrently. And so if you need to do a meeting with a lot of people looking at each other, write that down on your list. That is video feed. That is not attendee count. And when you dig deeper into all these, you can look for that. Dial in number is an interesting one because with GoToMeeting, WebEx, back in the day, people didn't have audio features on their computers and they had to dial into a meeting. That is not a given anymore. And many of these don't have a dial in feature without paying a fee. It's interesting to me that Zoom, which is one of the few platforms that has a free level, you do not get a dial-in number until you get to their $100 a month level. That's a lot of money to get a dial-in number. And I'm not necessarily speaking of a toll-free number. I'm just saying a dial-in number. And for
Correct.
Microsoft Teams, it's just a slight license change. So the person hosting the meeting just needs to pay a Microsoft license charge that is $4 a month. And then you can have a dial-in number as opposed to using the audio on your computer or
Right.
using a device like your phone. But these are all the things we looked at.
Right. Great options. And thank you for reviewing that or summarizing that for us. As we said, it went a lot deeper than this, but we felt these are the things we get asked the most questions about and also uh, need answering if you're going to be choosing something for your business. But let's talk about the first one. Our first one is Zoom. Now, Zoom is pretty, I would say it's almost overtaking the word webinar or web conference. The term Zoom, I'm going to have a Zoom meeting or a Zoom chat, or let's Zoom together. That is becoming synonymous with this type of service. It's that well known. And really, I mean, it's been around since before the pandemic, but the pandemic is really what just escalated it into astronomical use, into people becoming so familiar with it. And that's one of the pluses with using Zoom. Really high visibility. People know what it is. 9 times out of 10, almost everybody has been in a Zoom conference or Zoom meeting, whether or not it's been with their friends and family or even a business entity. So
Right.
very, very easy to use, obviously, if many different people and types are using it. One of the key things Zoom has going for it, because besides its visibility and ease of use, is also that you don't necessarily have to have the software installed to be able to join the Zoom meeting. So if you're on your computer, it'll give you a link. It'll come up within a web browser. Very, very easy to join and use at that side. And then, of course, it has great tools for the audio, high definition video and visual tools, tools for doing whiteboarding and sharing your screen. Of course, to do those types of operations, you have to have the desktop client software installed on your computer.
Yes, it offers
But
both, and that's great.
yeah, real easy to use. And then, of course, you couple that with the low pricing and you get a great web conferencing service to use. Now, the
Here's
one thing
another.
that,
Oh,
yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
saying that thanks for switching the slide is one thing that sets it apart is it was one of the few in the very beginning that offered the ability to have up to 49 different video feeds at the same time, which is kind of unique, right?
It's unique,
It's
and I also don't recommend it. It is, I've seen it used in a social setting for a surprise birthday party during the pandemic, but it's fairly chaotic and nobody could hear anyone else if everyone has their microphones turned on. I
it
mean, it was
is.
interesting for sure, but I would not want that situation for a business
No,
meeting.
a matter of fact, when we were talking about this, we kind of joked that it was like having the Brady Bunch on steroids with all the
Oh,
pictures
yeah,
on the screen.
totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. But again, if you do need to have that many video feeds, that gives you controls to control the audio and the video and so forth in that type of situation.
Yep.
But it's a great tool. It has really good video to go along with it. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is GoToMeeting. Now, GoToMeeting has been around for a long time. That one and also WebEx. GoToMeeting probably a little bit more familiar to most because of webinars they've attended in the past. And it really kind of set the groundwork for most of the web conferencing that people have used for a long time. And some of the things that are really appealing with GoToMeeting is it has really good collaboration tools for whiteboarding, sharing your screen, the chat, and being able to collaborate with files. Though the only difficulty is they do have a little bit of lackluster when it comes to video quality. With my experiences, the video quality has been a little garbled, or the audio and the video don't quite line up, and so it's been a little weird because of the synchronization is off a bit
Yeah,
that way.
I
But
agree.
yeah, it's been a little lackluster that way. But it's one of the things it has going for it that way, though, is far reaching. It has really good visibility. People have used it for a long time, and so they're very familiar with its tools and how it operates. They know that brand. There's a brand familiarity with it as well, which is very, very helpful. Depending on the audience that you're working with, they have a familiarity with the product.
Yeah, I think for a firm that mostly wants to use this tool to show a document, whiteboard, presentation, have people call in, this is still a great option. If I
Yeah.
needed to have a lot of video meetings within my firm or with a bunch of people outside of my firm, I would probably look at a different solution.
Right. Now, that being said, the other thing it has going for it is it has really good audio. So being able to have a variety of different ways to dial in, so different dial-in numbers to access the conference, even if you only wanted to dial in and just talk to each other via telephone, you could do that with its service. So the audio and the video, while both available, you could use one or the other or both, but it has really substantial um, gains on the side of using audio, especially with dialing in with a phone, which makes it really, really helpful.
That's
Most of
true.
the other tools are going to be similar to what you see in the other products as far as sharing and whiteboarding.
And that's why we didn't add slides after the matrix for WebEx because WebEx and GoToMeeting are very similar in terms of what they offer. So we're kind of, killing two birds with one stone, as they say, very similar to this one. But
That's right.
kind of the meat of this story is the next solution we're going to look at, which I think is often overlooked for a web conferencing service, and that's Microsoft Teams.
That's right. And it's not because well, I'd say mainly because people just kind of forgot about it. Microsoft includes Microsoft Teams with a Microsoft 365 license or an account. So if you have licensed Microsoft Office desktop programs for your computer, or you host your email through Microsoft 365, you already have a Microsoft Teams license without having to purchase anything. The problem is you probably didn't even know that. And I would say that's probably one of the downsides with Microsoft Teams is it was there and no one really knew what it was other than it was this pop-up that was coming up on their screen and they were asking, how do I get rid of it? Not
Right.
realizing that it was a web conferencing and communication tool that was automatically included that you could use for this exact situation.
I totally agree, and I will have to admit I'm guilty. I came to the Teams table kicking and screaming. Joe and I have a set time. We speak every week on Tuesday morning, and I love the good old days when he used to just call me on my iPhone, and pretty soon he was pushing me to use Teams. And I couldn't quite figure out why until I used Teams, and now I'm a believer. I drink the Kool-Aid. I love it. So you can do so many things in Teams, and I think we have some slides that will show you.
Yeah. So what draws Teams different from these other services is Teams is not just a web conferencing service, it's a collaboration tool. So it allows you to be able to collaborate with people both when you are in your conference and when you're not in your conference. So as you can see here in this particular slide, the teams that you create or groups or can be based on the groups you already have in Microsoft 365. And as such, the security is already there. And the chat window continues both in and out of the conference. So you can share things both when you are meeting via video or audio and when you're not. A lot like other instant messaging programs that you have seen like Slack or others, but contained within one program. It
What I like
allows you
about,
to have, yeah, it allows you to have all of that in one place. As a matter of
yeah,
fact, this presentation that we worked on Here's a slide from when Betty and I were working on this together.
Right. What I love about it, it really is a tool that encompasses everything you would possibly need. So Joe and I can be on a call, we can click the video camera and be on video, or we can decide, wait, let's start collaborating on a document. It can be a Word document, PowerPoint. This happens to be PowerPoint. If you upload your PowerPoint presentation into Teams, you can literally be typing in it simultaneously. Same with the Word document. And if I'm typing and editing, Joe sees a little pop up in the area of the document where I'm editing and it says my initials, BN. And the same works for me. When Joe is making a comment or editing the actual text, I will see exactly where he's editing and a little pop-up will say JO with his initials. So
Right.
that's really handy. And I
And
think this is
even
why we don't think of it as a web conferencing tool, but you
right.
actually can conduct web conferences with people outside of your organization, and they do not need to have Microsoft Teams or Microsoft 365.
Correct. And even if you make changes or edits to these files, like here we have the file, the PowerPoint presentation we were working on. If Betty or I made changes to this when we weren't looking at it, the next time I come to that file, it'll say, would you like to see all the changes that were made in detail while you were away?
Right.
So really nice collaboration tool. And
It is.
it even to the point of how to invite someone, right, Betty?
Yeah, oh boy, this was another thing. So Joe got me hooked on Teams. So then I wanted to be as savvy as he was. And I thought, well, I'm going to send my next calendar invite from Teams. There's a calendar in Teams. I went into Teams. I looked around. I didn't want to spend a lot of time. So I asked Joe, okay, how do I start a Teams meeting? He says it's really simple. You start it from Outlook. And I was like, what? So sure enough, you start an Outlook meeting. As soon as you invite someone, you have to add it, you have to hit that invite button. Once you invite someone and type their name in the to line, this little Teams meeting icon shows up on your toolbar. And then you'll notice at the bottom, the last line of text, it says Teams meeting details will be added after you send the invitation. So you don't even get to see what it's going to say. It just knows you want a Teams meeting and you click send. And sure enough, when your reminder comes up and it's time to start your meeting, it has a link that takes you right into Microsoft Teams for your meeting.
Right. So that's what kind of draws the line that define the teams from the others. It's just more than just a web conferencing. It's a real a tool for being able to collaborate and communicate together, both internally and externally as well. It
Yes.
has the video features that kind of came over with Skype. So a lot of the nice video, the HD video, you can do video feeds with up to 100 different people at one time. Lots of features, very rich with different things. And probably the best thing is it's included with your Microsoft 365 account. So the cost, you already have it if you have
Yeah.
Microsoft 365.
You
So
can't really beat that. And then if you want to add, like I said, a dial-in number, that's just another level of licensing in Microsoft. It's only $4 a month. And then you can have these web conferences and invite people to dial in from their phones if they don't want to use the audio on their
correct.
computer.
Right. Now, the next thing we wanted to talk about is kind of a new and upcoming uh, service that's coming around for web services, and it's called conferencing as a service. And this is a new type of terminology that's coming around. And primarily what generated this is not having to install software, not having to install an app to be able to join a meeting or to join a webinar. It's on the internet. Why can't I just click something and it will just work? And that's
Right.
the whole preface behind conferencing as a service. And we wanted to highlight one of these that's pretty popular is Blue Jeans. And it works exactly that way. It does not need to have you install anything. When you get a link to this, you click on it and it's going to open up in your web browser and it will just work. You'll be able to participate and to be able to view and hear and see everything just as you would with any other conferencing service, except super simple, a one-click type of entry. Obviously, there will be a password or PIN number involved with that for security reasons. but super easy to be able to join and to be able to have people access from any device or any computer, regardless of the operating system.
Right. And a couple things to consider now that many people are not working in their office environment. So many people are using a remote desktop connection to either their remote desktop server in their office or maybe directly to their computer. When you're in the remote desktop environment, it's going to prompt you to download and install software, and you likely won't have the rights to do that. And that's when it would be great to be using a conference service versus something that needed to be downloaded. um, it does also have a download feature, and you can start your meetings either way. That would be up to the person conducting the meeting. But I do know this has become very popular quite quickly, and the Placer County Superior Court is using it for all of their web meetings,
Yeah,
and it's
so real
going
easy to
really
use.
well. Yeah, the
Yeah,
video quality is also excellent. I've
really good
also
video
noticed
quality.
really good. And if you're having problems with bandwidth resolution, it will kick in and try to resolve the issues for you and improve the quality of your meeting. That's also a really nice feature of BlueJeans.
Right.
I want to
So
mention another web conferencing service is the one we're using today, which is
that's
Click
right.
Meeting. And I guarantee someone's saying, why didn't they put Click Meeting in their presentation since they're using it themselves? But
Right. So
that's
why aren't we?
because, yeah, why aren't we? I thought it had some marketing features that weren't likely to be that attractive to most of our clients. And I felt the cost was a little steep, but it had some features that we really wanted for our webinar Wednesdays. So that's why we chose it. And we love that it is conferencing service friendly.
Right. So again, we considered our audience, we considered the features, and then also the price, which helped us to come to very easily picking out a choice that suited our needs for what we wanted to do. And that
Yep.
really kind of summarizes what we were hoping to do with this webinar and our discussion. Highlighting those key questions so that you know how to pick something very, very easily. What is your target audience? And how are you going to use it? And what's it going to be used for? We talked about, for example, if you wanted something that was because of your audience and you wanted something very, very easy for them to use, maybe using something like BlueJeans or Zoom. Or if video quality is something that you really want to pay attention to, maybe Zoom, Teams, or BlueJeans. If collaboration is what you want to use, and not just while you're holding the webinar or the meeting, but also offline, then Microsoft Teams is a great collaboration tool. Or, of course, price, if you already have a Office 365, or I should say Microsoft
Microsoft.
365 account, they've changed that.
Yeah, they
It's
changed
already
that.
included, so there's no additional cost. So these are the things. Answering those questions will help you to easily identify a solution that will meet your needs very, very easily.
And Joe and I are happy to have a further dialogue with you if you have some specific questions. I spent hours and hours researching each of the solutions we discussed today, and there are finite details. They go on and on. Just like I mentioned earlier, participants and video feeds are two different things. So, really come up with that list of what you need. And if you have any further questions, we're going to be happy to help you.
And that draws our discussion to a close. So we thank you for joining us this afternoon. Please keep in mind that if you have any questions or would like more information or need help with something, please feel free to reach out to us at info@terrapintechnology.com, and we would be happy to help you. As well as if you'd like to have a copy of this presentation, including the matrix, we could send that to you as well, and help you out, because that's
You
what
bet.
we enjoy doing.
We do.
So
And our next topic on our
it's
next
coming up.
webinar Wednesday is going to be about the equipment you need for web conferencing.
That's right. That's
Uh,
going to be on Wednesday. Well, Wednesday, matter of fact,
of
August
course,
19th.
webinar Wednesday. Yeah, August 19th. And we'll be sending out a notification about that in advance so you can sign up free of charge. Um, if you're working from a laptop, you usually have a built in web camera and microphone and speakers. But if you're working at your desktop computer, you will likely need to make some purchases, and the decisions aren't as easy as you can imagine. I know of one attorney who spent a lot of money on a very fancy microphone, and come to find out it was eating up all of his bandwidth, so he had to give it up. So we hope to get some detailed information that will help you make wise decisions in that area. And we'll explain all those ideas next month at Webinar Wednesday.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Betty. And we look forward to seeing all of you again for our next webinar discussion.
Thanks, Joe. Everyone, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.